Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to be showing you how I fix some broken and loose floor tiles. I'm not saying this is the way the professionals do it, but it certainly did a great job for me. As you can see, I have 3 half tiles that are loose, 1 whole tile that is loose, and a broken tile. The first thing I need to do is clear out the grout surrounding these tiles. To remove the old grout, I used an oscillating multi-tool with a grout removal blade installed. These tools are available from your local hardware store. I then went on to remove the old grout away from the other loose tiles. While doing this, I found some other loose tiles that I also needed to repair, so I also removed the old grout from them. After removing the old grout, I used a vacuum cleaner and then a cloth to clean the area. For gluing these tiles down, I'll be using a 2-part epoxy. I used the top of an old takeaway lid to mix the epoxy. To mix the epoxy, you use equal amounts of both parts of the 2-part epoxy. I used a popsicle stick to mix the epoxy thoroughly. I then used the epoxy on both surfaces that I was gluing. I made sure I cleaned up any glue spillage before it dried with a damp, wet cloth. I also used painter's tape to hold the tiles in place while the epoxy dried. I repeated this process to secure all the loose tiles. I only made up a small amount of epoxy each time, as I was using a 5-minute epoxy that I knew would set quickly on a warm day. This is what it looked like when all the tiles were glued and taped. After leaving the tiles for 24 hours, it was time to grout the tiles. I had kept some of the old grout I had removed earlier and did my best to colour match it with new grout at the local hardware store. When buying grout for this sort of job, it is important that you buy grout that can be hand mixed. It'll say on the box if it can or not. While at the hardware store, I also purchased a grout squeegee. To mix the grout, I poured the grout powder in an old takeaway food container. I then added a small amount of water and stirred the grout with a popsicle stick until it made a thick paste like peanut butter. I think the mix I made had just a little bit too much water in it, but it still worked fine. I made sure the surfaces were clean and then I applied the grout using the squeegee at a 45-degree angle to the grout lines. I used the squeegee to force the grout into the channels. With all the grout in place, I then went over the area with a damp sponge and cloth to remove any excess grout. In hindsight, I would have let the grout set for a while before removing the excess grout. With all the excess grout removed, I think the job looks pretty good. A lot better than having loose tiles anyway. The small marks you can see on the tiles are from excess epoxy that I had not cleaned off properly when gluing the tiles. I could have used some acetone to remove it if I wanted, but it is not bothering me at all. I hope you enjoyed this video, as I may do some more general handyman work in a series called Let's Do It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos. Thank you for watching.